There was a vise bolted to a workbench in a barn outside Terre Haute, Indiana last spring. The barn was coming down and the crew had already loaded the scrap trailer. The vise was rusted shut, hadn't moved in 20 years, weighed about 40 pounds. They were going to unbolt it and throw it on the pile with the rest of the iron. It was an Emmert pattern maker's vise, and it sold for over $1,200. $1,200 off a workbench that was heading to the dump. Let me be straight. Most old bench vises are worth their weight in scrap iron, $20 to $40 depending on the price of steel that week. Out of 10 vises at a farm auction, 8 are going home with somebody for less than the cost of lunch. But the other 2 are worth checking, and number 10 on this list can bring up to $1,000 by itself. Subscribe before we start. Number 10, Wilton Bullet vise, the most recognized bench vise in American tool collecting. You know it when you see it. A heavy cast iron body sitting on a bullet-shaped swivel base that rotates 360 degrees. Wilton made these in Chicago starting in the early 1940s. The older models are the C series, stamped C0, C1, C2, or C3 depending on jaw size. A 4-inch C2 in clean condition with the original swivel base, smooth jaw action, and no cracks in the casting brings $300 to $500. A 5-inch or 6-inch with clean jaws and a working swivel can reach $700 to $1,000. The identification is on the body. Look for Wilton Chicago and the model number cast or stamped into the iron. Earlier models say pat pinned on the base. The bullet shape is the giveaway. No other manufacturer made a swivel base that looks like a bullet. At a garage sale in suburban Milwaukee, a C2 with 4-inch jaws was sitting under a table next to a box of rusty wrenches. The tag said $25. The seller thought it was just an old vise. It was worth $400. If someone at an estate sale is asking $50 for a Wilton Bullet, they don't know what they have. Number 9, Colombian bench vise, the most common brand in America. Colombians were the vise you found in every school shop, every factory, and every home garage. Most models bring $30 to $60 and nobody gets excited about them. But the large models, 6-inch and especially 8-inch jaws, are a different story. An 8-inch Colombian is a massive piece of iron, and collectors who want a big vise know that old American-made Colombians have better castings than anything imported today. A clean 8-inch Colombian brings $100 to $200. The identification is simple. Colombian is cast into the body, usually with Cleveland, Ohio underneath. The jaw width is your price guide. Under 5 inches, it's a $30 vise. Over 6, start paying attention. Number 8, Reed Manufacturing Bench Vise. Reed has been making vises in Erie, Pennsylvania since 1896. Their bench vises and pipe vises are built like bridge hardware. Heavy castings, machine jaw faces, and a quality of construction that most modern imports can't match. A Reed bench vise in working condition with clean jaws and an intact swivel base brings $150 to $300. The pipe jaw models, the ones with a set of V-groove jaws under the main jaws for gripping round stock, are more sought after because they're more versatile. Look for the Reed name cast into the body and Erie PA underneath. The weight alone will tell you something. A Reed bench vise feels like it was built to hold a bridge together, and some of them probably did. Number 7, Prentice Vise Company. Based in New York, Prentice made heavy-duty bench vises from the 1880s through the mid-20th century. Their castings are distinctive. Some models have ornate ribbing on the body and decorative details that most vise makers never bothered with. A Prentice vise in good condition isn't just a tool. It looks like it belongs in a museum. Clean examples with intact jaws and smooth action bring $150 to $350. The name Prentice is cast into the body, usually on the front jaw. The ornate casting pattern is the first thing to look for. If the vise has decorative details that seem like overkill for a shop tool, check the name. It might be a Prentice. Number 6, Blacksmith Post Vise, also called a leg vise. A tall, narrow vise with a single long leg that extends from the bottom of the body to the floor where it's bolted to a mounting block or a forge stand. The leg absorbed the shock of hammer blows, so the mounting bench didn't take the impact. Every blacksmith shop in America had one. When the shop closed, the vise stayed bolted in place because nobody wanted to move 100 pounds of iron. They're still out there, bolted to stumps in old barns, standing in the corner of a shed nobody has opened in 30 years, buried under junk in a root cellar. The maker names to look for are Peter Wright, Iron City, and Indian Chief. A Peter Wright post vise in working condition with clean jaws and a straight leg brings $300 to $600. Unmarked post vises bring less, usually $100 to $200, but they're still worth more than scrap. Check the leg, check the jaws, and check the spring between the jaws. A missing spring drops the value by half because replacements are hard to find. Number 5, Charles Parker Bench Vise, Meriden, Connecticut. Parker made some of the finest bench vises in American history. The castings are heavy, clean, and precisely machined. A Parker vise feels different in your hands than a Colombian or a no-name import. The jaw faces are flat. The screw is smooth. The whole assembly moves like it was fitted by a watchmaker, not poured in a foundry. A clean Charles Parker bench vise with original jaws and intact swivel brings $200 to $400. Larger models with 6-inch jaws can bring more. The Parker name and Meriden con are cast into the body. Most people who have one don't know what it's worth because Parker stopped making vises decades ago and the name faded from the market. The quality didn't. Number 4, Starrett Bench Vise. Starrett is known for precision measuring tools, but they also made bench vises at their factory in Athol, Massachusetts. Then they stopped. That's the whole story. Starrett discontinued their vise line, and the moment they did, the existing ones became collectible. A Starrett bench vise in clean working condition with the Starrett name on the body brings $300 to $500. Not because the vise does anything a Wilton can't do, but because Starrett doesn't make them anymore, and Starrett collectors want one for the shop. The Starrett name and Athol, Mass, are cast into the body. If you see both, don't scrap it. And this next one is where the money gets serious. Number 3, Athol Machine Company Vise. Before Starrett put their name on vises, the Athol Machine Company was already making them in the same Massachusetts town. An Athol vise is rarer than a Starrett because the name was used for a shorter period. Most people have never heard of the Athol Machine Company, which means most people don't recognize the name when they see it cast into a vise at a cleanout. An Athol number 77 with a rare double swivel base from 1909 sold for $1,300. $1,300 for a vise most people would have walked past because the name on it didn't ring a bell. If you see Athol cast into a vise, stop. Look up the model number. You might be holding the most valuable thing in the building. Number 2, Wilton Baby Bullet, the 2-inch jaw version of the Wilton Bullet. It fits in one hand, it weighs about 8 pounds, and collectors pay $500 to $700 for one in clean original condition. The Baby Bullet was made in small numbers, and most of them were used hard in jewelers' shops, watchmakers' benches, and electronics workstations. Finding one with clean jaws, a working swivel, and no cracks is difficult because the small castings are more fragile than the full-size bullets. The early versions, stamped pat-pinned on the base and marked with the old Wilton Chicago logo, are the most valuable. A Baby Bullet with a power arm articulating base, the mount that clamps to a bench edge and lets the vise swing on an arm, has sold for over $700. The whole assembly weighs less than a small toolbox and is worth more than most of the tools inside it. Number 1, Emmert Pattern Maker's Vise, the most mechanically complex vise ever bolted to a workbench. It tilts, it rotates, it swivels. The jaws angle in every direction because a pattern maker needed to hold irregularly shaped wooden patterns at any position while he carved, filed, and fitted them. Emmert Manufacturing of Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, built these from the late 1800s through the mid-20th century. Then they stopped. The company closed, the tooling was gone, and no one else ever made a vise this complex. An Emmert in working condition with clean jaws and a functional tilt mechanism brings $500 to $800 from a dealer. At auction, in front of collectors who need one, the price climbs past $1,000. An Emmert number 1 in exceptional condition has been listed at over $3,000. The identification is unmistakable. No other vise on a workbench has this many moving parts. The tilt mechanism alone has more castings than most entire vises. If you find one, don't try to free a stuck mechanism with a hammer. Don't wire wheel the patina off the castings. Don't remove it from the bench until you know what you're selling. An Emmert that's been cleaned up by someone who didn't know what they had is worth half of one that's been left alone. Every vise on this list started the same way. Bolted to a bench, doing its job, forgotten when the shop closed. Most of them are worth $20 at scrap price. A few are worth 100 times that. The difference is 4 seconds, enough time to read the name on the casting before you throw it on the trailer. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and watch the next video above.